Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to the Alluring Bead Boutique's design channel here on YouTube. Today I'm going to do a tutorial on creating another strip of this beautiful peyote with these beautiful little ruffled sections, these little pyramid sections along the edge. I just recently posted an update video for you guys of everything that's been going on my blog and here on YouTube and everywhere else on the internet. And so I'll throw a link up for the update to you guys. Make sure you check that out. Head over to the Alluring Bead Boutique and sign up to follow my blog and subscribe to the Bead Mat newsletter if you want to stay up to date on everything that goes on with the Alluring Bead Boutique. As I've stated before, this year, 90% of what's going on with the Alluring Bead Boutique, tutorials, patterns, and that type of thing are all over there on the blog. So let's go ahead and talk about what we're going to work on today. So we're going to work on this beautiful little strip of peyote. I am making one identical to this one here because basically this is something I'm working on a concept for, a nice little wide cuff where this side, this edge, this will be one edge. There'll be the opposite one will be up here like this. And then I'm going to create the center lines using some different beads. So let's go ahead and talk about the beads that I'm going to use in this project today. It takes a lot of beads, but it takes very little of most of them, except for the main bead, which is, you can see, this color here. And these are delicate beads. It is DB0324. The color is actually called Matte Metallic Patina Iris, and they're really pretty. It's like kind of like this beautiful gold and turquoise, greeny turquoise color. It's got a matte, but it's a matte metallic finish, and they're really, really pretty. I've been dying to use them, so I finally come up with a project to use these beads on. So this is the one you're going to need the most of. And for this half of the bracelet, let's open the tube up. You can see that I used almost half of this tube. So I'm going to say at least one of these small 2-inch tubes, which says 7.6 grams on the side of it. I'm going to say you're going to need at least that, close to that many. So you'll need a tube of one nearly full tube of one color of size 11 delicate beads. Then we're going to need 2 colors of 15-0s. I have some red pepper opaque 15-0 Tohos. I also have some jonquil rainbow green lined 15-0 Tohos. We're going to need 2 more colors of Delica, and these are some I get from Hobby Lobby. These are also size 11. This one is opaque cactus luster. This one is opaque cranberry. Really pretty. We'll need some 11 OC beads. These are both Tohos. This first one here is an 11-0. It's Fern Gold Luster by Toho. Really pretty beads. I really like those. And then these are another one of my favorites. And these are Gold Lustered African Sunset. These two are 2 of my favorite new colors this year. Love them. And then you'll need some 8-0s. And then you won't need very many of these because I only used one per little pyramid section here. You could potentially use more if you wanted to, but the first ones here are the silver lined pomegranate opal. I really love that color. And this one is silver lined matte transparent fern. These are really hard to find. About the only place I've been able to find them is Fusion Beads. Okay, so those are the seed beads you're going to need. I started out with some 0.006 Fireline in the black satin, and for this particular strip I think I used close to probably a little over a wingspan and a half on my needle. I don't know if I have that much. I only got about a wingspan here left on my current needle because I was playing around with something yesterday, which is a different way of doing herringbone stitch with some super duos. So I accidentally ran off a bunch of my thread yesterday. But that's okay. Maybe I can show you guys how to add an end thread then in an existing peyote project. But anyway, I'm going to go ahead and get everything laid out. and I'm going to come back and get started. You're also going to need a stop bead. So get your needle threaded with a comfortable length of thread. This is probably a size 11 beading needle. Get your beads laid out, and I will meet you guys back, and we'll go ahead and get started on this cute little project. So first thing I want to show you is how I've got my bead mat laid out. So what I've done here is I've laid out my 15s, my cranberry delicos, these 11s, and these 8s. In the middle, I have my main bead that I'm going to be using, which were those pretty matte metallic patina iris delicos. Down here, I laid out my green beads, 15s, delicos, 11s, and 8s, just like this. And what I've been doing to make things a little bit easier for myself is I laid them out like this, so basically I can just rotate my bead mat when I'm working on the different color pyramids. And everything is right here at my fingertips. So that's how I got started, and you can do that if you want, or you can dump out a few of your red ones and then, you know, pick those up and put your green ones out, however you want to work. It's up to you. But if you can see here that my red ones are on both ends, and I have created, I think, 9 of these little sections. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And this strip of beadwork comes out to slightly over 6 inches. It's like 6 1/4 inches. Each one of these little sections starts with 6 rows of regular peyote stitch using the main color, then working through till the end of this pyramid. And each one of those sections comes out to 5/8 of an inch. So if you want to be thinking about the overall length you might need, know that each section equals 5/8 of an inch. And if you can notice here that when I started out, I had every intention of having, starting with wanted a red in the center, and then work out in mirrored images here off of each other, just like that. And it just works out if you just start red, green, red, green, red, green, red, green, red. But you want to end, if you want yours to look like mine, you'll want to start and end with the red and have a red in the center. But you may not be able to. You may want to use all one color. It's totally up to you, however you feel like working. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and get started. And so we know that in flat peyote, even count peyote, we're going to start by picking up all the beads for our rows 1 and 2. I'm going to show you how I use one of my working beads as a stop bead. So I'm just going to go ahead and pick up one first and bring it all the way down. I'm just going to leave myself a small tail because I will be adding thread to finish my bracelet later. And I'm just going to pass right back through that same bead from the bottom to the top and put my little thread bridge on it. I'm going to leave myself a couple of inches just so I can create some tension as I work. I want enough to hold on to down here. Okay, so now that I have that bead in place, I picked up, let me see what I picked up. Hold on one sec. I started out with 8 beads total, so now I have 1 on my needle, my thread already as a stop bead, so I'll need to pick up 7 more. And just let them come down and sit up against my little stop bead down here. And so now, because that counts as row 1 and 2, I have to work 4 rows of flat peyote. So now I've got all my beads dropped down into place. I don't know if you noticed a little glitch in the thing, but I had accidentally not picked up enough beads. So I'm starting over. I added one of my working beads as a stop bead. I picked up 7 more beads and let them drop down to the tail thread. I've got this upside down with my tail thread being up here away from me. I'm picking up a bead. I'm skipping the first bead, and I'm going up through the very next bead right here. I'm going to pull that up till my 2 little beads kind of sit side by side, and then I can just tighten my stop bead back up just like that. I'm picking up a bead, skipping that next bead, and going through the next bead. And this is just flat even count peyote. And you guys, if you're unfamiliar with it and you need a step-by-step, head over to my Bead Weaving 101 series. Check out my post on even count flat peyote. Or look for it here on YouTube. I got several videos that teach you the basics. Alright, so there's my second one. Now I've picked up another bead. I'm skipping that one. And I'm going through the next bead. And peyote, when you first start, is always fidgety. Just take your time. Manipulate the beadwork using your fingers, just like that. And you will be able to get the first couple of rows started. Now I got one more to do. So I'm picking up my last bead, skipping that bead, and I'm going to go through that stop bead. A lot of people don't do it this way, but to me it just makes perfect sense to when you can. And this is a good stitch where you can use that stop bead in your work. What you would do at the end would be just to fish that little thread bridge right off the side of that bead. And we might do that later, but for right now I'm leaving it there. So that was my row 3. I'm going to flip the work over. I've got to do row 4, 5, and 6. So this will be row 4. Pick up a bead and come through the first little sticking out bead that you just added. Because I work left-handed, I'm working on the left side of the beadwork. If you're right-handed, you're probably going to be working on the right. And pick up a bead and go through the next sticking out bead. Watch your tail thread. Watch those little beads pop into place right beside each other. And that's what you're looking for. You want a nice even tension, not too overly tight at this point, because you don't want to pull your beadwork all crooked looking. And the last one. Now that was row 4, and I'll show you how I know that. I know that because I can count these 2 beads at the top and these 2 beads at on the top edge and the bottom edge. 1, 2, 3, 4. Or I can count on a diagonal, starting with the bottom corner here. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's how I know I got 4 rows. I need 2 more. You guys can go ahead and get your 6 rows done. Now that you've got the start, you just flip the work and pick up one and go through the sticking out. When I get my 6 rows done, I'll meet you guys back here and show you guys how to do the first little triangle. Okay, so I've gotten my first 6 rows done, and I'm ready to start my first little red triangle. So after your 6 rows are finished, your tail thread should be at the one end, like the top or whatever, and then your working thread will be at the opposite end. So now the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to pick up a 15-0, and I'm going to take my first stitch on row 7. Then I'm just going to finish the row with my delicas. Sorry about that, guys. I forget to turn that ringer off all the time. So I've taken my first stitch with my little 15-0 red pepper bead here, and then I'm just going to finish the row with delica beads. So right up through to the top by picking up one, going through the next sticky out bead. Make sure your beads settle in, nestle in before you continue on, or adjust them if you need to before you start another row. One more stitch here, and we'll work our way down. So every time I come to the top of this beadwork, I'm on an odd number row. When I stitch back down, I'm on an even number row. So here we go. I'm coming back down. This will be row 8. And I'm not going to flip my work this time. You can if you want. I just found it a lot more rhythmic yesterday to not do that. But let me come out just a little bit. So I have to come down one. I've taken my first stitch. Here's my second stitch on the way down. I'm going to do a third one. All just using my main color of delicas. But on my way down, when I get to a colored bead, I need to pick up the same bead I'm coming into. So I need to pick up a 15-0 and come through the 15-0. This is how it creates that cute little roughly pyramid shape. Alright, so now here I am back down at the bottom. For my next row, I'm going to pick up one of these beautiful cranberry delicas. And I'm going to stitch up through that 15-0 right there. Just like that. Now I'm going to add a bead of the color I'm coming out of. So I'll go back to the 15-0 and go up through that next delica. Then I just finish the row with my little patina iris beads. And each row has 4 stitches because we started out with 8 beads. So it makes it nice and easy to keep track. Okay, so there's where we are. I hope it's not too shiny in here. I'm trying to get my lighting corrected, but... Alright, so now we're going to just come back down. The first bead will be one of our main color. We're going into the patina iris, so the second bead is also that color. Now we're going to go into our 15-0, so we need to pick up a 15 and come through the 15. Make sure you don't get your thread looped over your needle. And now we'll be going into that cranberry delica, so we'll pick that one up. And we'll come through the last bead. And we're ready for a new row. Now we're going to use our 11-0s, and these are my African sunset beads. So I'm going to pick up that African sunset and come up through the first delica sticking out. I'm coming out of that delica color, so I'm going to pick that one up and go through the 15. I'm coming out of the 15, so I'm going to pick up a 15, go through that next delica sticking out. And now I'm coming out of my main color, so I pick up my main color and go through the last bead. Situate all my beads. And then I'm going to work back down. So I'm picking up my main color, coming into my main color. I'm getting ready to come into my 15-0. So I'm going to pick up a 15-0 and just come into the 15-0. I'm going to pick up a cranberry delica and come into that cranberry delica. Now I'm going to pick up an 11-0 African sunset and come into the African sunset. There's what we have. So now I'm ready for my one little 8-0 bead. And this row will make the center of our pyramid. So I'm going to pick up my 8-0 and go up through that 11-0 round. See, bead? I'm going to pull that pretty snug and tight up in there. And now I'm coming out of my African sunset, so I pick one up, go up through the cranberry delica. We're picking up the beads we're coming out of this time, so picking up that cranberry delica, go into the 15. And pick up the 15 and go up through our last bead. And so here we are. We've got half of our little pyramid created. So now we're going to reverse what we were doing. The first thing we're going to do is, because I didn't want to have a cranberry bead here at the top, because this is my center. This is the center of my pyramid, so I need to reverse. And I'm going to pick up my main color, and I'm going to come down through that cranberry bead. And now, on the way down, we're going to use the color we're coming out of. So I'm picking up a 15-0, coming down through that delica right there. And now we want this. Here we were growing our pyramid up. Now we're going to be making our pyramid go down. So now I'm coming out of that cranberry bead, so I'm picking up a cranberry and going through my 11-0 round bead. And now I'm going to pick up my 11-0 round bead because I'm coming out of that, and I'm just going to go right through that pomegranate 8-0. Now I'm going to pull nice and snug. Get all of that put together like that. So now I'm going to pick up the color I'm going into on the way back up. So I'm going into a 11-0 African Sunset. So that's the one I'm going to pick up. Now I got my light so bright I can hardly see. Now I'm going to be going into the Delica. So that's the one I'm picking up, the Cranberry Delica. And finally I'll be going into this 15-0, so I'm going to pick up that 15-0. Go through. Now I need to go into my main color, pick up a main color, and up you go. We're going to come down with the main color. We're going to come down with the main color, because that's the one we're coming out of. Come through your little 15-0. Secure your little beads in there. And now we're going to go back to what we're coming out of. So I'm coming out of a 15-0 red. Pick one up. Coming out of the Delica red. Pick one up. Okay, I'm having trouble seeing this little bead. Okay, sorry guys. I got my light so shiny I'm having trouble seeing. So now you can see that we are finished with not only that pomegranate bead, but we're also finished with our African Sunset. We've got 1, 2, 3 going up and 1, 2, 3 coming down. So now we're going to be going into that Delica bead. So we're going to pick up a Delica here at the bottom, and we're going to go up through that Delica. Pull everything nice and snug. You can see how it kind of pulls up just a little bit. But that's how, because your beads are different sizes, and that's how that little ruffle gets created. So now I'm going into my 15-0. So I'm going to pick up a 15-0 and go in. I'm going into my main color for the rest of the row. So I'll pick up the main color. And this is how we're going to finish out the pyramid. Now as we come back down, this time we will finish off our Delicas. So we're going to start with our main color, because that's what we're coming out of. And this time we have 3 stitches using our main color. You know, coming through, picking up the one I'm coming out of, which is my main color, going into the 15-0. And now I'm going to pick up a 15-0. And come through that red Delica there at the bottom. So now we've finished off all of the beads except for this 15-0. And now we're going to go pick up a 15-0 and go back up through the little Delica bead there. Actually, you know what? I screwed up. I picked up the wrong bead. Didn't I? I'm sorry. Hold on, folks. Let me double check what I did. Looks like I put a Delica where my 15 is. Sorry. Let me fix this. I totally... And I do this. So basically, if you do it, don't feel bad. Just take it out. I was coming out of a 15-0. I need to put a 15-0 there. And come through my last Delica. Now, we've got one more 15-0 to add on our way up. We're going to put that bead into position by picking up one, coming up through the 15-0, sticking out. You notice how I pinch my work with my fingers to keep those beads from loosening up. And I'm going to go all the way up with these main color, Delica. We're finished our pyramid. So I'm going to come all the way up. The last 3 stitches with my patina iris pretty beads. Oops. Hold the phone, folks. Katrina kind of got a little snag. Make sure your thread doesn't get hung up on your beadwork. Okay, so now that I've struggled through that, here we are at the top. Before we start working our 6 rows of peyote, though, we need to come all the way back to the bottom. We need to finish out our little pyramid section. And we want an even number of rows. So everything looks the same in uniform. And I'm telling you, I'm struggling this morning, guys. Sorry about that. Just grab a hold of it. Double check what I got going on here with this thread to see if it's looped up. And it is. You see how I got this loop? I just need to pass my needle up through it. Now when I pull, there we go. Sorry about that, guys. I'm getting a little klutzy today. So now I'm getting ready to take my last delicate bead of my main color, and I'm coming down through that red 15-0. So now that we have that completely worked out, each time when you add that last 15-0, no matter what color, red or green, you're going to add it going up, but you'll need to work back down before you start counting the 6 rows of peyote. So now we're just going to add 6 rows of regular, count peyote using our main color. So this would be 1, the first row. And I'm not going to make you guys sit here and watch me do just these plain rows. So just know that you're going to do a count of 6. And the easiest way for you to keep track is that after this red bead, you will have 3 delicas coming over, and your working thread will be coming out the bottom, down here near the pyramids. And that's how you'll know you have 6 if you lose count. So here I am, and I've finished my 6 rows on this side of my pyramid. And like I said, I know this because I have 1, 2, 3 beads on my outer edge row. My tail thread is at the top of the beadwork, and my working thread is now back down here at the bottom. So that tells me that I have completed my 6 rows, and I'm ready to start my next pyramid. And my next pyramid is going to be green, so I'm just going to roll my little bead mat around. I'm going to repeat the same process, only I'm going to be using these other colors of beads. And I will walk you guys through it just so we can go through it one more time on how to get this pyramid done. So we're going to start out our little green pyramid with a 15-0, just like we did before. So I'm coming out here out of my 6th row. I've picked up my green 15-0, and I'm going to go up through the first sticking out bead. For some reason today my workspace feels a little bit crowded, but we'll get through it. Then I'm just going to finish the row using my main color of delicas. Just like we did for the red ones, we'll now do for the green. On this side, on the right hand side, or the working side of your pyramid, you'll be picking up the color you're going into. So we're going to pick up our main color. We're going into the main color. Main color. One more main color. And now I'm going into my 15-0. So I'm going to pick up my little green 15-0 and come through it. The next one. And so we're at the end of our first 2 rows here of our pyramid. So we're going to switch beads again. We're going to pick up the green delica, which is this pretty cactus luster. And we're going to come up through that 15-0. On the way up, we're going to pick up the bead we're coming out of. So we're going to pick up the green 15-0 and go into that delica main color. We're coming out of a main color. So for the next 2 stitches, we're just going to add our main color. I am in love with these colors. Alright, so now we're going to be coming back down. We finished that row. We're going to be going into our main color, so let's pick up one of those guys. Come down the first sticking out. We're going into a main color. We're going to pick one up and go into it. Now we're going to be going into the 15-0, so we'll have to pick that up. And then we'll be going into our light green cactus delica, so we'll pick that up and finish the row. Next we'll be adding our, and go up through the bead we just added. We're going up again, so we'll pick up the color we're coming out of. Go through the next bead, sticking out. Now I'm coming out of my 15, going into this delica, which is my main color. So now I'm coming out of that main color, so I'm going to pick that up and finish my row. Alright, so here we are. We're going into a delica main color, so that's what we're picking up. I hope you guys can see. My light is kind of strange today. Not sure why, but maybe I scoot it closer. Move my camera back just a little bit or something. Sorry for the earthquake. Alright, so now I'm going to be going into my 15-0. So I'm going to pick up a 15-0. Come through that next 15-0. I'll be going into my cactus delica, so I'll pick that up and come through the next bead. Then I'm going to be going into an 11-0, so I'll pick that up and go into my next bead. So here we are, and we're getting ready to do the center line row. So we're going to pick up our 8-0 green bead and pass up through that 11-0 C bead. Now we're going back up, so we're going to pick up the color we're coming out of. So go with my 11-0 beautiful fern gold luster. Next one we're coming out of is this cactus delica. Then finally we're coming out of that 15-0. So we're going to pick up that 15-0 and come up. So here we are, we've completed to the center. So now we're going to switch what we do again to create the downside of it. So we're going to pick up the color we're coming out of. So I'm coming out of my main color. I'm going to pass through that 15-0. Now I'm coming out of the 15-0, so I'm going to pick up that 15-0. Come through my delica cactus. I'm coming out of the cactus delica, so that's what I'm picking up. Passing through my 11-0 seed bead. Then I'm going to pick up my 11-0 seed bead and come down through my 8-0. Pull that nice and snug. And now, on the way up, I'm going to pick up the color I'm going into. So I'm picking up an 11-0, going into the 11-0. I'm going into the cactus delica. And then I'll be going into the 15. Then finally I'll be going into my main color. I'm coming out of my main color. Still coming out of my main color. Now I'm coming out of my 15. I'm coming out of my Delica. On the way back up, I'm going into my Delica. Into a 15. The remaining stitches, I'm going into my main color. Okay, so I have completed the cactus and the 11 out. So now I know that the only other beads I have to add are my main color and a few 15s. So I'm coming out of my main color. Pick up a main color. Coming out of main color. Coming out of a main color. Now I'm coming out of that 15. So I'm going to pick up that 15. Come down through that little cactus bead there. And then I'm getting ready to add my last 15 on the way back up. So I'm going into the 15, pick up a 15. I'm going to sew the rest of the way up using my main color. Which will be 3 beads. Just like that. And then I have to stitch back down using all the main color. And then I can be ready to do my count 6 rows of peyote, just like we did before. Before doing the next red pyramid. Picking up that last main color, stitching through that last 15 out. And that's how I know I'm ready to do 6 rows of flat even count peyote using all my main color beads, just like we did in this little section here. So that's what I'm going to do. I'll go ahead and do those. Then I will turn my bead mat around and make another red pyramid. So all the way back down, add 3 more rows of main color, do a green one, and so forth. Just like that, until I have a strip that matches this one here. I'm going to get a little bit done and sew up most of my thread. I'm going to come back and talk to you guys a little bit more about the length. If I wind up having to add thread, I'll come back and show you how to end and add thread. So I'm running out of thread here, and I don't want it to get too awfully short. So I'm going to go ahead and show you guys how to weave this thread off. I want to make sure I pay attention to where this thread was coming out, because when I add a new thread, I need for it to be exiting the same bead that it is now in the same direction that it is now. But first I'm going to end this thread. So I'm coming out of the bottom of this 11-0 seed bead. And in peyote stitch, to weave your thread in and out or to maneuver through the beadwork, you always sew on the diagonal. So I can skip over to this next bead right beside this bead. And then I'm just going to sew up on the diagonal, which makes it really easy right here because I can see that diagonal as those 4 little cactus beads. So I'm just going to push up through there. Then I'm going to come down the beads directly adjacent to it, which is this 15-0 right next to that bead. And I'm going to come down a few beads. It might take me a second to get in there. It's a little hard to maneuver. You can see that I'm coming down those 2 15-0s adjacent to these 2 cactus beads. Oh, man. Hold on. You see, I ripped my thread right out of my needle, and I had to put it back in. Anyhow, so I'm just going to stitch down, just like this, and pull my thread, making sure it doesn't get hung up on any other beads. Now, I want to loop around, so I'm going to come back up through those 2 beads again. That secures the thread in there pretty good. Then I'm going to move on the diagonal up to the other edge of my beadwork, to the top edge. So I'll come through that 15-0, then I'll work through these little beads that are my main color, like that on the diagonal. Make sure my thread doesn't get hung up on anything. And I'm going to continue on till I come out the top up here. I can get through those 2 on the diagonal there. Then I'm just going to loop around a couple of these outer edge beads. I'm going to come down the one to the left and go right back up through the one I was coming out of first, like that. And do the same thing on this side. I'm going to come down 1 bead to the right, up a bead to the right, back down this left bead, and I'm going to come down towards the inside of my beadwork. So I'm coming out here. I want to come back down this bead to the left and stitch on the diagonal through some of my beads right here, so I could get my needle to poke out, like right there. You can see that I've stitched through all those beads, but I want to flip my work over and make sure that I don't see any needle on that side. Otherwise, I could have exposed thread on the beadwork, and I don't want that. So I'm just going to pull that all the way through. You can see here that I'm exiting from this bead. I'm going to sew up 1 bead to the right. I'm going to come right back down that bead and try to get through at least a couple more, or at least 1 more, just like that. Pull that through. And because I've looped around several times around the same beads, my thread is nice and secure. And I can just take that right off my needle. And I can add a new thread to my needle, and I'll come back and show you how to add the thread in. So I strung another good wingspan of thread onto my needle. And now I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to weave this thread in, but I want to make sure that when I end up, I'm going to be coming out of this bottom 11-0 facing myself. So I can do it any way I want to. I just need to make sure I stitch on the diagonal. I think I'll start up here this time at the far top corner. I'm just going to come down a few beads. I'm going to pull this through. And I'll leave myself just a little bit of thread there. I'm exiting from the bottom of this C bead, this delicate bead right here. So I'm just going to sew up the bead right beside of it, and then the bead at the top, like that. Now hold on to that tail thread because I don't want to accidentally pull it all the way back through and have to start over. I'm holding on to that, and I'm going to pull that thread just like that. And I'm going to come right back down this bead again, creating that little lock of thread. So I'm coming down those same 2 beads. And I'm going to hold on to that tail thread still, because it still has the potential for coming out if you pull too hard. So now it's kind of locked in there. You can see like that if I tug on my working thread. It's not really going anywhere. But I'm going to do a couple of more loops around. So I'm exiting from this 11-0, or this delica right here. I can sew into the 15-0 right next, right below it, because that is still on the diagonal, even though it's catty corner in the other direction. So I'm going to come down a couple of those 15-0s. It doesn't matter which bead you use. Just make sure you're sewing on the diagonal. That is the important part. And that you don't accidentally catch thread on some beads and actually wind up with an exposed thread. So I'm exiting from that second 15-0 down right here. I need to try to I can come over into this delica bead. It might be a little easier for me to do a loop around if I do that. So I'm going to come down through these couple of delicas right here. Then I'm going to sew up and back down. So now that I'm exiting from this second cactus delica, I'm going to go up through a couple of these 15-ohs. I don't have to use more than one. I can just use the one right there, right beside the one my thread's exiting. Pull that thread through. And this time when I come down the delicas, I want to come through 3 of them, because I want to stop just above the bead I need to be exiting. So I'm getting through 2, so I'll go ahead and do that first. I'm going to really, keep trying to force. I've got a really dull needle right now. I just need to come through one more. I actually don't have to come through that delica. I can actually just skip over, come through both of those 11-ohs, just like that, because I'm still sewing on the diagonal. When I pull it through, my working thread is now in the exact same position as where my working thread ended previously. So I'm ready to start and finish going forward. And I'm on to my 6th triangle, so I've got a couple more to do, and I'll meet you back at the end. I have finished up my little strip here. I just wanted to make a quick note, like when I get ready to create a bracelet using these 2 strips, they're going to line up. You're going to want to make sure you line them up correctly. So when you get ready to sew across, if you'll notice here, you'll want to keep in mind which side is the tail thread and which side is the working thread. I know that this side on my original strip is my working thread because I sewed back through just a little bit to secure this thread. I just wove through, and here's where the working thread is coming out. And the tail thread, of course, is here, coming out of the very first bead on both pieces. Here's the working thread on the strip I just created. I know this, of course, because I still have my needle on there. But if you decide you want to follow along with making this bracelet with me, go ahead and create a second strip, just exactly the same as you created the first strip. And then check back over to the alluringboutique.com, where there's going to be a post regarding this bracelet and the rest of the project. All right, folks, so that is it for today. I want to thank you for watching. Make sure you subscribe to my channel. Head over to the alluringboutique.com. Sign up for my newsletter, and also make sure to add your email to the follow the blog. All right, that's it. You guys have a great day.